How does a civilization end? We have been conditioned to believe that the apocalypse will announce itself with a blinding flash of light from the sky, a nuclear dawn that vaporizes cities in an instant, or perhaps a sudden silent pandemic that empties our streets. But the truth is, the architecture of modern human existence is far more precarious. The end of the world as we know it does not require a nuclear triad. It requires only silence. We live in an era where we believe our data, our money, our communications, and our very identities exist in something ethereal called the cloud. We look up to the sky, tracking satellites, imagining a wireless web enveloping the Earth. This is the greatest, most pervasive illusion of the 21st century. The cloud is not above us. It is buried deep below, resting in the cold, crushing, abyssal darkness of the ocean floor. More than 99% of all international data traffic travels through undersea fiber-optic cables. Every email, every classified military transmission, every encrypted intelligence drop, and every streaming video courses through these submerged lines. But the true gravity of this infrastructure lies in capital. Every single day, an estimated $10 trillion in financial transactions bounce across the seabed. The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, known as SWIFT, relies on this physical network to clear the trades that keep global markets from instantly collapsing. If you were to somehow lift these cables from the water, you would be looking at the literal nervous system of the human race. And yet, the arteries carrying the lifeblood of our species are terrifyingly fragile. To understand the vulnerability, you must understand the anatomy of the lifeline. A modern deep-water submarine communications cable is shockingly thin. It is no thicker than a standard garden hose. At its core, the actual medium transmitting the sum total of human knowledge is composed of glass fibers, each roughly the diameter of a human hair. Lasers pulse light through these microscopic threads, bouncing the photons off the internal walls of the glass in a process called total internal reflection. To survive the hostile environment of the ocean, these glass hairs are encased in a thin layer of copper or aluminum to carry electricity to the repeaters, devices spliced into the line every 50 miles to amplify the fading light. This is then wrapped in high-strength steel wire, sheathed in mylar tape, and finally coated in high-density polyethylene. That is all that stands between total global connectivity and absolute darkness. A few millimeters of plastic and steel. The history of this underwater web dates back further than most realize. In 1858, two heavily modified warships, the USS Niagara and the HMS Agamemnon, met in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean to splice together the first transatlantic telegraph cable. It was a copper wire insulated with gutta percha, the sap of an East Asian tree. When Queen Victoria sent the first official message to U.S. President James Buchanan, it took over 16 hours to transmit 99 words. It was a marvel of Victorian engineering, yet it functioned for only 3 weeks before the electrical current was pushed too high, frying the line and silencing the continents once more. We have spent the last century and a half perfecting this technology, transitioning from copper telegraphs to coaxial telephone cables, and finally to the fiber-optic networks of today. We have managed to push the speed of transmission to the literal speed of light. But while our technological sophistication has compounded exponentially, our fundamental reliance on physical, terrestrial geography has not changed. We have built a digital god on a foundation of fragile glass, laid across the most hostile, unmonitored, and inaccessible environment on the planet. We assume that because the internet was designed by the U.S. Department of Defense to survive a nuclear strike, it is an indestructible, decentralized web. We assume that if one line fails, traffic simply routes through another. But as we map the actual physical paths of these cables, a chilling reality emerges. The internet is not a decentralized web. It is a highly centralized system dictated by the topography of the ocean floor and the unyielding laws of economics. And it is riddled with terrifying vulnerabilities. The ocean is vast, covering more than 70% of the Earth's surface, plunging to depths that defy human comprehension. But the topography of the seabed is just as varied and treacherous as dry land. There are towering volcanic mountain ranges, sheer cliffs, active fault lines, and abyssal trenches deep enough to swallow Mount Everest. Because laying cable costs hundreds of millions of dollars, telecommunication consortiums do not drape them randomly across the ocean. They must map precise, safe routes, avoiding thermal vents, active seismic zones, and drastic changes in elevation that could stretch and snap the line. This requirement for safe passage, combined with the economic demand to connect major population centers via the shortest possible distance, has created massive physical bottlenecks. These are the choke points of the deep. Narrow, highly concentrated underwater corridors where the world's data converges, and they are the Achilles heel of the global economy. Consider the Luzon Strait, a body of water connecting the Philippine Sea to the South China Sea, situated between Taiwan and the Philippines. Because of the shallow, treacherous waters of the surrounding region, almost all digital traffic connecting Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan to the rest of Asia and the world funnels through this narrow strait. It is one of the most densely packed cable corridors on Earth. In December 2006, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Taiwan. The tremors triggered a massive underwater landslide, a turbidity current of mud and rock that raced down the continental slope, snapping multiple major cables in the Luzon Strait simultaneously. In an instant, the financial markets of East Asia went blind. Currency trading halted. Millions were cut off from the global network. It took weeks for specialized repair ships, braving winter typhoons, to locate the severed ends on the ocean floor, haul them to the surface, and meticulously fuse the glass hairs back together. But natural disasters are merely an accidental preview of what intentional geography can dictate. The single most vulnerable telecommunications bottleneck on the planet is the Red Sea and the land bridge of Egypt. For data to travel from Europe to India, China, and the broader Asian market, it must take the shortest route. To go around the continent of Africa introduces too much latency, too much of a delay in the light pulses, making high-frequency financial trading impossible. Therefore, practically every cable connecting Europe and Asia runs down the Red Sea, squeezing through the incredibly narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait before coming ashore in Egypt to cross over land to the Mediterranean. Through this single, highly volatile geographical zone, roughly a third of all global internet traffic flows. The waters here are incredibly shallow. A merchant vessel dragging an anchor to avoid a collision, or a massive container ship running aground, as the Ever Given did in the Suez Canal, can easily dig into the seabed and shear through multiple cables at once. And that is simply accounting for accidents. The Red Sea is currently one of the most heavily militarized and contested bodies of water on Earth. It is a theater of asymmetric warfare, where non-state actors utilize advanced drones and ballistic missiles. The realization that Western economies rely on the continuous operation of fragile tubes resting in the shallow waters of a war zone is a geopolitical nightmare, keeping military strategists awake. Moving to the Atlantic, the vulnerability shifts from sheer volume to ultra-high-speed finance. The transatlantic routes connecting Wall Street in New York to the City of London represent the financial arteries of the Western world. Here, the competition is measured in milliseconds. High-frequency algorithmic trading firms spend hundreds of millions of dollars to lay dedicated straight-line cables, like the Hibernia Express, shaving fractions of a millisecond off the data transit time. These cables traverse the continental shelves, specifically the Grand Banks of Newfoundland and the seabed off the coast of Ireland. In these relatively shallow areas, commercial fishing trawlers dragging heavy beam nets along the bottom frequently snag and damage cables. To mitigate this, cable operators bury the lines in trenches dug by remotely operated vehicles. But the trenching only goes a few feet deep, and once the cables hit the abyssal plain, they simply rest exposed on the deep ocean mud. The redundancy of the internet, the ability to reroute traffic if one cable snaps, relies on the assumption that failures will be isolated, accidental, and sequential. But the existence of these geographical choke points means that the redundancy is a physical illusion. A concentrated event, whether natural or manufactured, in the Luzon Strait, the Red Sea, or the transatlantic shelves, can blind entire continents simultaneously. And in the shadowy realms of modern intelligence, military planners are keenly aware of exactly where these arteries lie. Warfare has fundamentally evolved. For centuries, naval supremacy meant controlling the surface of the sea, securing trade routes with cruisers and aircraft carriers. During the Cold War, the battleground expanded downward, creating a deadly game of cat and mouse between nuclear-powered submarines lurking in the water column. Today, the theater of conflict has sunk even deeper, settling firmly in the benthic zone, the very bottom of the ocean. This is the domain of seabed warfare, a highly classified, multi-billion-dollar shadow conflict playing out in slow motion, far from the eyes of the public. The strategy is no longer just about hunting enemy ships. It is about holding the enemy's infrastructure hostage. It is about the ability to tap, manipulate, or instantaneously sever the fiber-optic nervous system of a rival superpower. And no entity on Earth has invested more heavily in this grim, asymmetric capability than the Russian Federation, specifically through a highly secretive branch known as GUGI, the main directorate of deep-sea research. GUGI operates independently from the standard Russian Navy, reporting directly to the highest levels of military command. They command a specialized fleet designed for one purpose: dominance of the ocean floor. The most visible manifestation of this fleet is the oceanographic research vessel, Yantar. To the untrained eye, the Yantar appears to be a standard scientific ship, equipped with cranes and hydrographic mapping sonar. But Western intelligence tracks the Yantar's movements with extreme prejudice. Time and again, this vessel has been observed loitering precisely over critical intersections of undersea internet cables, moving at impossibly slow speeds, or stopping entirely for days over transatlantic routes and Mediterranean choke points. The Yantar is a mothership. It deploys autonomous underwater vehicles and deep-diving manned submersibles capable of descending thousands of meters to the abyssal plain. At these depths, the pressure is immense, roughly equivalent to having an elephant stand on a postage stamp. There is no sunlight. It is an alien world. Yet, specialized submersibles, like the nuclear-powered Losharik, are engineered to operate here. The Losharik consists of a series of titanium spheres capable of withstanding the crushing depths, equipped with robotic manipulator arms and advanced sensors. But what exactly are these ghosts of the deep doing? There are two primary objectives: intelligence gathering and strategic sabotage. Tapping a fiber-optic cable thousands of feet underwater is a staggering feat of engineering. Unlike a copper wire, which emits a detectable electromagnetic field, a glass fiber transmits light. To tap it, a submersible must delicately strip away the heavy steel and plastic armoring, expose the inner core, and physically bend the glass hairs to a precise micro angle. This bending forces a microscopic fraction of the light photons to leak out of the cladding. Advanced optical sensors catch these escaping photons, replicating the data stream without disrupting the main signal, ensuring the target never knows they are being watched. This is not science fiction. It is a direct evolution of Operation Ivy Bells, a declassified Cold War mission where the USS Halibut tapped a Soviet military cable in the Sea of Okhotsk. Today, the technology has simply caught up with fiber optics. The second, far more terrifying objective is preparation for the Day Zero scenario. Seabed warfare is the ultimate gray zone aggression. A severed cable rarely leaves a smoking gun. Was it a shifting tectonic plate? Was it a reckless commercial fishing trawler? Or was it a deliberate cut by a deep-water submersible laying an explosive charge? By the time a civilian cable repair ship mobilizes, sails to the coordinates, grapples the line, hauls it up, and tests it, weeks may have passed. The deniability is built into the environment. Western powers are not blind to this. The United States operates the USS Jimmy Carter, a heavily modified Seawolf-class submarine boasting a massive multi-mission platform insert, a flooded bay allowing specialized remotely operated vehicles and Navy SEALs to access the seabed. The French, British, and Chinese navies are rapidly accelerating their own seabed warfare programs, launching dedicated subsea defense ships. The ocean floor has become heavily militarized, a silent Mexican standoff where superpowers have placed explosive charges, metaphorical or otherwise, on each other's life support systems. The cables are mapped, the vulnerabilities calculated, and the assets deployed. The infrastructure is entirely compromised. All that remains is for someone to give the order. Imagine the chronological collapse of a civilization, not over years or decades, but measured in hours and microseconds. This is the hypothetical anatomy of Day Zero, a coordinated simultaneous attack on the choke points of the global undersea network. The operation begins in total silence, deep beneath the waves. At 0400 hours, coordinated autonomous underwater vehicles, loitering for months near the Grand Banks, the Red Sea, and the Luzon Strait, simultaneously execute their commands. Shaped charges detonate, or robotic pincers cleanly shear through the polyethylene, steel, and glass. They do not need to cut every cable on Earth. They only need to sever the 10 or 12 most heavily trafficked transoceanic arteries. At T+1 millisecond, the light stops. At the landing stations in Cornwall, England, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Alexandria, Egypt, the optical receivers instantly register a loss of signal. Automated systems, running the Border Gateway Protocol, immediately detect the dead ends. The protocol's entire purpose is to maintain the Internet's redundancy by instantly recalculating the best alternative path for data. Trillions of data packets, suddenly orphaned, are aggressively shunted to the surviving secondary cables. At T+10 seconds, the redundancy fails. The surviving cables, designed to carry only a fraction of peak global traffic, are instantly overwhelmed by an artificial tidal wave of data. The optical amplifiers overheat. The routers at the landing stations enter a state of cascade failure, crashing under the distributed denial of service attack, created by the Internet's own desperate attempt to heal itself. The network begins to actively sever its own connections to prevent hardware meltdowns. The transatlantic bridge collapses. Europe, North America, and Asia are suddenly locked in isolated, fragmented intranets. At T+1 hour, the financial hemorrhage begins. Markets open in London, but the algorithmic trading bots in New York cannot connect. The discrepancy in pricing instantly creates massive arbitrage panics. The SWIFT system, unable to verify multi-billion-dollar interbank transfers, halts operations to prevent the corruption of global financial ledgers. Trillions of dollars are frozen in digital limbo. You attempt to use a credit card at a local grocery store, but the terminal cannot reach the authentication server housed in a data center on another continent. The transaction is denied. Cash machines freeze. The modern perception of money, which is merely a continuously updated digital agreement transmitted via light pulses, evaporates. At T+12 hours, global logistics grind to a permanent halt. Modern supply chains are miracles of just-in-time engineering. There are no massive warehouses stockpiling months of food and medicine. Inventory is kept in constant motion on cargo ships, airplanes, and trucks, tracked down to the millimeter by RFID chips, pinging centralized cloud databases. Without the undersea network, the ports go blind. Automated gantry cranes cannot read the manifests of incoming cargo ships. Thousands of massive vessels become ghost ships, dropping anchor outside of harbors, their holds full of rotting agricultural products and critical pharmaceuticals, completely unable to offload. Aircraft are grounded as global weather tracking and air traffic control synchronization systems fail. At T plus 24 hours, the illusion of societal stability fractures. Government and military responses are crippled. While military branches have secure intranets, like the U.S. Department of Defense's SIPRNet, the dark secret is that over 80% of military logistics and administrative data travels over commercial civilian undersea cables. Without these lines, command and control is brutally degraded. Embassies cannot communicate with their capitals. The intelligence apparatus is blinded, unable to verify if the blackout is a prelude to a kinetic, nuclear first strike. Paranoia saturates the command bunkers. For the civilian population, the psychological impact is devastating. The screens that dictate our reality go blank. No news feeds, no social media, no ability to contact loved ones overseas. The localized cell towers may still broadcast, but the fiber-optic backhaul that connects those towers to the wider world is dead. Society is thrust back into the localized isolation of the 19th century, but with the massive, unsustainable population density of the 21st. This is the terrifying reality of the blind world. We have spent the last half-century building the most complex, interdependent, and prosperous civilization in human history. We have digitized our wealth, our knowledge, and our defense, trusting it to microscopic threads of glass resting in the mud, protected by nothing but the dark and the cold. We convinced ourselves that our technological God lived in the clouds, untouchable and omnipresent. But the truth remains anchored to the seabed, quietly humming in the abyss, vulnerable to the slow drag of an anchor or the quiet malice of a submarine gliding through the deep. We are suspended by a thread, and in the dark waters of the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Red Sea, the scissors are already in place.